Welcome to episode 221 of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. He's Tom Albano. I'm Nick Morgasen. Follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at ETB Sports. Follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Network. Follow our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. YouTube.com/ETB Network. Just broke 680 subscribers and climbing. So make sure you check out our channel. Make sure you check out our website, etbpodcast.com, for all the latest blogs and information coming out there as well. Also, make sure you listen to our audio-only platforms, which we've made some changes there. We're going to start releasing some audio-only versions about 3 to 4 hours before a video version, so we can get a little separation in there. So make sure you check out our audio versions as well. And like we said, check out all the platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Odyssey, Acast. We're on all the platforms. Also presented by WolfSpreads. If you're looking to get into all the action, and we've done a lot of great things with them, including our Football Friday, which we just had our post-mortem show. So it's the end of the football season. Boo-hoo. It'll be back in about 200 days. Which is, and trust me, we will be counting down those 200 days until the NFL season comes back. But if you want to know what WolfSpreads is, it's $2,000 fantasy dollars a week. For our Football Friday, we had a competition every week to see who could pick the most games correctly. It is the normal gambling like you would see on a DraftKings or a FanDuel or all that stuff. You have all the lines, you have all the money lines, you have the spreads, you have over-unders. You have everything. But the difference is you don't have to bet real money. Mm-hmm. You can use fake money, fantasy money, and you get $2,000 a week, and then you put it up against everybody else, and whoever wins the most fantasy money wins for the week. So if you're into all sports, NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, go check out the WolfSpreads app. Put fantasy dollars on the over-under, the money line, or the spreads, competing for bragging rights with your fellow players while having additional fun watching sports, and don't risk losing your house because we don't want that. WolfSpreads, sports betting for friends who love the action. Okay, we have a lot to get into this week. Major League Baseball is going to take the forefront. Let me say that one more time. Major League Baseball is here to stay.
Major League Baseball, MLB is there's a lot of MLB news, and it's the lead stories. Oh my god!
I'll give you one better. Fine. Actually, I'll give you one better since you love this sound since I added
it. Yeah. All right. So yeah, a lot of MLB we got to get into. 2 Angels players leading our show off. One, actually should say different reasons why they're leading off. One's comments are quite the opposite from the other's comments. We'll get to that. Then we go over to LA Dodger land. And did you know that there was I guess we'll say for lack of a better term, mystery team in the Yamamoto sweepstakes? Yeah, we'll talk about that.
There's a mystery team?
What? There was a mystery team, and they offered more money than the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets all offered.
I don't know, man. I hate when mystery teams come out afterwards. That's like the whole thing that happened with Aaron Judge when the Padres were announced as that mystery team. Oh, we were going to offer him more than $400 million, says the same team who had to take out a $50 million loan to pay their expenses.
And despite all that, Shohei Ohtani apparently will not be available for their spring training opener this coming week.
Gee, shocker. So let's disappoint fans right off the bat who probably paid lots of money.
Well, you know what's not disappointing? It'll take 5 years, but Rob Manfred's tenure as MLB commissioner is going to be done by the end of the decade.
Oh, and let the clown show begin.
MLB expansion's inevitable, according to Jeff Passan. Mark Lerner, speaking of disappointment, says the Nationals are no longer for sale. That's a lot of baseball we got to get into, and then a couple of football stories. First, on the serious end, 2 adults have been charged in the Kansas City parade shooting, so we'll touch upon that. Justin Fields and Bears drama. as Justin Fields pulling your favorite version of pettiness, Nick, the unfollowing of teams on Instagram.
Great. Just like Russell Wilson. He's following the path of Russell Wilson, unfollowing the Seahawks when he was with the Seahawks.
College football, the 12-team format's been approved. We'll talk about that. And then, Nick, your favorite weekend, NBA All-Star Weekend.
Talk about pettiness. When we get there, there's plenty of things wrong, including a certain...
Plenty of congratulations that need to be dealt out there.
Including Adam Silver. You'll hear from Adam Silver later. Trust me. Don't you worry. I have that planned.
Yes. But we're going to get things started with the two LA Angels stories we're going to talk about. This one, I say we start with this one because, number one, it's Mike Trout, who is, should be one of the faces of Major League Baseball. At one point he was, and then Rob Manfred said, he doesn't have much of a personality. We can't really promote him. And then the other being, his teammate that's still left over in Los Angeles. But focusing on this one, it's Mike Trout, and it's for some stuff that we've talked about, Nick. So when we were talking about Shohei Ohtani leaving cross town, basically going from the Angels to the Dodgers, we said, the LA Angels just lost him for nothing. And we talked about, even though Mike Trout's on this bad contract and you said he'd never be traded, now they may not have much of a choice as a means of trying to speed up their rebuild. Well, now it comes out that apparently Mike Trout would actually prefer not to be traded. So,
I have to look, and I don't know what the answer is. I think he's got a no trade, if I'm not mistaken.
He probably does.
For that sizable contract, I would definitely say there has to be a no trade in there.
Well, the reason I bring it up, Nick, is because he comes into his locker one day. I think this is very early in the spring training, and he jokes, Ohtani must be gone, because now all the reporters have now circled back over to him rather than being in a split. And he says this, I think the easy way out right now is to ask for a trade. There might be a time, maybe. I really haven't thought about this, but when I sign my contract, I'm loyal. I want to win a championship here. So he doesn't rule out the potential that a trade and a trade request could happen, but he says, I prefer... it's like we talked about when he first signed that contract. Nick. He wants to be Mr. Angel, and he wants to do whatever it takes to win a championship there. It's just hard to listen to that when the Angels, no matter what they've done with Mike Trout, it just has not worked. Not in that he's performed bad, not even that he injured, but they can't build a team around him that's taken them to the playoffs. It's been 10 years since they've gone to the playoffs.
I mean, one thing I'll say off the bat is that Mike Trout is being foolish in the statement that he's making, because to say that he's not looking to be traded, one, that's bad because you're basically putting yourself in a box. Now, Mike Trout is Mike Trout for namesake purposes, but Mike Trout has been hurt a lot, like a lot more than the average star is. And the contract is an albatross. Now, I've been trying to look it up as we're talking, but the contract is insane. I think it was a 12-year, like $426.5 million deal.
That was when it was first signed. And that was signed, I think, before 2019. So we're about halfway through. Yeah, so it's 6 years left after. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You're right. It's about half.
This is 6 year of the contract. So at the end of the season marks the halfway point on that contract.
And in 2021, he was hurt. And 2023, he was hurt massively. So, and the money doesn't go down. Like in a lot of contracts where the money kind of like...
This is a backloaded contract, not a front-loaded.
Well, every year is the same. It's 35.45 million every year, including he's an unrestricted free agent at 39, which his career is probably going to be over. Mm-hmm. Even though most baseball players can sometimes play till their 40s, like he doesn't strike me as someone playing in his 40s. But yeah, so here's the notes. Full no trade clause. So he's basically telling you that I'm not going anywhere.
Which, here's what I say to that. On one hand, you know, I don't really see. I mean, I see problems in it, but I think one good thing that comes out of these comments, Nick, is that if there's anything that's going down involving trade talks or whatnot, it's going to be behind the scenes because if he says outright yes, I want to trade, there's going to be drama within that locker room and
Well,
drama out for the
there,
public to see.
there's certain rules. Now, I don't, and we're not really going to talk about the free agency drama because there's been a lot of it, but there are rules just for the sake of comparison. The whole Blake Snell situation where Scott Boras and all agents are allowed to leak that they think a team is interested. But
hmm
I will tell you, did you know there was a rule that teams are not allowed to say they're out on players?
I actually can buy that. I can understand why that's there.
But that's an actual rule. Teams are not allowed to say they're out on players. And fans are probably saying right now, as they heard that, wait, what do you mean we can't say we're out on players? Well, I'll give you the logic. If you say, like, say it's the Yankees or the Mets or the Red Sox or the Dodgers, and they say that they're out, it kills their market.
Kills the market value, right?
But why are agents allowed to leak that teams are in or out?
I don't know, and I don't know, and
But I'm
maybe
just saying, it's the same argument here.
I
Like
think
Trout's allowed to
it's
say.
because I think it's a negotiation kind of ploy, I guess.
But I feel like it should go both ways. And the same thing here. If Mike Trout is going to say that he's looking to be traded, then Artie Moreno and the ownership can say what they want, and it shouldn't matter. So,
Well, I mean, we're talking about two different things. And Nick, when you talk about, like we talked about last week with the Scott Boras situation, where all of his clients, even to the point we're recording right now on the morning of Wednesday the 21st, they're still out there. There's still plenty of his guys out there. And now it's got Major League Baseball. I think I talked about this, Nick, start of this year, end of last year shows that maybe MLB would benefit from an NBA or NFL style or NHL style free agency where it's that 2, 3, 4 week signing period. And it's like, you got to get it done by that point. And
it's
Manfred's now talked about it, saying we're thinking about it now.
it's interesting you say that because it did come out. Manfred did mention it in whatever that press conference that all commissioners do
Mhm.
before their season start. And apparently the MLBPA came out and said, you can keep walking.
Which, I mean, I get it from the MLB standpoint because it goes to the point of like salary caps. Like they'll never be because the players union will never allow it. But
But
you
at the same time,
well,
oh, go ahead. Good.
I think we're on the same page. Like, you think do you, Mr. NBA, think free agency is done so much better in the NBA because there are those limits?
Yes, 100%. But at the same time, you don't need the same ramp up process in the NBA that you do with Major League Baseball, where they need that month and a half to get going.
True.
MLB takes more training. That's why they call it spring training. In NBA, they call it training camp, but it's really not. It's whoever, like, you see the veterans, they don't show up until the last 2 weeks of training camp.
And I
So,
think, but
yeah.
I do think that, when you think of what's going on here with Boris's clients, and I also think back, Nick, to our Unspoken podcast days, I think it was 2018, 2019. It was like 2 or 3 years in a row where we got to February and March and we're like, all these big name free agents are still out there. Like, I get what MLBPA is doing, but that's not good for the game either when you have all these big name free agents still without a team as spring training's arriving.
Well, around the circuits of sports talk radio, they've been saying that do you really want to sign a guy with 2 weeks left, like a big name, and like they keep holding out because of Scott Boras? Now, a lot of what I've been hearing, and I'm shocked, but I agree with it. These guys can tell Scott Boras, hey, get me into a camp, just sign the deal, the best deal, and stop holding out for mega millions money. Like, just get me into a camp. And at least if we sign a contract, then we can go back to the table afterwards once I'm in a camp
Mhm.
and figure it out.
And honestly, and like I told you off air yesterday at our meeting, I wonder how many of these guys are gonna, how many Boris's guys are gonna tell him to F off after this.
Well, A-Rod did it. People forget in that whole, I think it was the Red Sox Rockies series, like he had an opt out, like that,
And he
and
knocked it out,
and the
yeah.
Yankees warned him, like, hey, if you opt out, you're out of here, because they were going to lose the deferred money that they got from, I think, the Rangers from way
Mhm.
back. And what did A-Rod do? He went back to the negotiating table by himself without Boris and signed a deal, which the Yankees were foolish for, by the way, but that's a whole different issue. But
I mean, they still got one World Series out of it, so
right, which I'm not arguing with. And actually, he was probably one of the bigger reasons why they won.
yeah.
But back to the story I have with Trout, that I don't think
I think we can
his
agree,
contract is tradable.
Nick. I think we can agree his contract is not tradable, but it would be for the betterment of both parties that this relationship kind of ended.
Now, what did we say? He's going to have 5 years left, including
6 years.
this year? Oh, 6 years?
Oh wait, including this year?
Yeah.
It's this year and 6 more after this.
Oh, so he's got 7. Okay, so it's not going to be tradable. $35 million a year. And there's no outs. Now, I don't know how no trade clauses work. Like, if once you use it, does it go or whatever? Like, if you agree
I
to be
don't
traded?
think so. I don't think so. I think it's just Trout's gonna have a say in a theoretical situation like this where Trout gets traded. He's gonna have a say as to where he goes.
Okay, so he has no opt outs either. It's
Mhm.
completely full contract, which is rare in today's game. Now, obviously, he signed this a while back when the
Right.
rules were a little
Well, I was gonna say, well,
different.
he was, like I said, there was barely an Ohtani when he first signed this deal. He was the face of baseball.
You want to know how old this contract was? Albert Pujols was on the team, if you remember,
Right.
and and I think they're still regretting that contract. I think they're still paying it out.
Yeah. Well, that goes to what I said before, Nick. It's not so much about Trout. You can point to his 21 and 23 injury seasons, but it's the people around him. Albert Pujols' contract didn't work out. We'll talk about Anthony Rendon in just a second. His contract's not working out. Um, I would even be tempted, Nick, to say I don't even think. Well, was Vlad Guerrero still on the team when he was? Vlad Guerrero was gone by that point when Trout came on, right?
Say that one more time.
Vlad Guerrero. When did he retire?
I can look that up, but I think it was early 2000s.
2011. Okay, so Trout barely may have gotten, because technically Trout was a rookie in 12, so Guerrero was gone by that point.
Right. Yes. So
Okay.
he didn't retire technically right away. It
Mhm.
says that he retired technically in 2014 in March, but
Okay.
he didn't play. You're right. Technically, he retired like 2011, 2012.
Okay. My point being just, and then actually, Nick, if you want to point something, how the Angels last trade deadline, they're like, we're not trading Ohtani and we're acquiring, we're buying, and then everything kind of fell apart. So as much I can see the fault, and we've talked about it, Mike Trout signing this deal. You could probably say Mike Trout to the Angels, Nick, is going to be Don Mattingly to the Yankees. Of one of the biggest stars, one of the best players of all time within the organization, but can never get to the playoffs. But at the very least, you could say Mattingly got in his last series. Remember, they went 5 games with the Mariners, an absolute classic. Trout and the Angels, the one time Trout got to the playoffs, it was either 13 or 14. They got swept by the Red Sox.
Right. And didn't they play the Royals one year also in a playoff
I
series?
I don't
thought
remember.
I have to look that up. But in my opinion, this is going to sound harsh as a Yankee fan, but Mike Trout is a much better player than Don Mattingly is.
I'll take your word on that one. I think there's still a little more time. We got to see what Trout does in his.
I'm
Let's
talking
call him.
about quality of player, what he should have been.
Okay, I'll agree with you on that, but I think we still have to wait and see Trout's what I'll call senior seasons.
Agreed.
Play
But
out because Mattingly still performed in his senior seasons.
Agreed, but I'm talking about like overall, like he was the big star. He was supposed to be
The expectation.
the expectations of Trout were way bigger.
At the same time, Nick, I think we can agree. not all of this is Trout's fault because, again, we go back to, I mean, yes, he signed a contract, but when the last 2 trade deadlines, the Angels had the opportunity to trade Shohei Ohtani and get all these young prospects from all these young top prospects and major league ready talent from teams. And they're like, no, we're not trading him. We're not. And now they lost him for nothing.
They could have drained someone's farm system, quite literally, to trade Shohei Ohtani. Plus, they could have gotten guys that were ready to go right then and there. Like, and biggest mistake that they blew. It's like a stock. Think about players on the team. You have to hit their stock. Shohei Ohtani's stock when he was towards the end was still sky high. Think of Shohei as like Amazon and Google.
Yes.
Like their stocks are huge. And then when the big news comes out that something bad happened where they had a bad transaction, it drops 50%. That's what happened to the Angels.
And the thing is, you know, you're never going to get, from the standpoint of the Angels, you're never going to get the kind of value that you could have gotten with Shohei Ohtani. But
absolutely not. Never again.
But Nick, and I know you just said it's not tradable, but if you want some value, Mike Trout with his name value and the talent when he's healthy, you gotta at least make the consideration, even if it means you have to pay the money. Because let's say the Angels screwed over themselves. They screwed over a rebuild. The rebuild is going to be longer. I just wonder, Nick, if they don't do anything with this kind of contract and they don't work with Trout, could they even worsen the length of their rebuild?
Yeah, 100%. They could, because they don't have anybody. And we'll get to part 2 of this because I think this is funny also. But not that it should be funny, but it became funnier. But Mike Trout is not the centerpiece anymore. Right. And people are going to say, but Nick, what do you mean? Mike Trout's been there for the long haul. Just because you've been with a team for, what, over 10 years?
Well, let me put it this way, Nick. He wasn't, but now I think he is again because Shohei Ohtani kind of saw better and said, yeah, I'm out of here.
No, but I'm talking about in general. People said that Mike Trout for his whole career was the big star that was supposed to lead the team. Mike Trout was never really a leader. That was not his role. He was a great hitter. He was a great fielder. One of the most iconic plays I remember from him was robbing the home run in center field at Camden Yards, where he was like halfway over the wall. Like and this might be a little ridiculous what I'm about to say, but he reminds me a little bit of the career trajectory of Griffey Jr., where like he was the big name. Now Griffey went on to have an amazing career, which is Hall of Fame now in the Hall of Fame. But Griffey got hurt a lot because he played really hard. Trout was the same way for the beginning of his career. Played really hard because there was nothing around him to support. And then he got hurt. So if you think about it, the trajectories are very similar. But Griffey had way more players around him to support. So it wasn't as bad. Trout, now, everyone said when Pujols came in, oh, they're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to do amazing things. Yeah, and nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's go to part 2 of this, and that involves Anthony Rendon. So
this guy does not know how to shut his mouth.
Baseball has never been okay. So he's had a media availability session. This is coming after I think the report of Trout's comments saying, you know, oh, I don't want to be traded, and pushing Artie Moreno to sign some of these Scott Boras agents for the sake of making the Angels competitive. And so Rendon's talking to the media after that. And Rendon tells reporters, quote, baseball has never been a top priority for me. Here's the full context. He says, quote, this is a job. I do this to make a living. My faith, my family come first before this job. Asked whether his baseball career is still a priority for him, Rendon said, quote, oh, it's a priority for sure because it's my job. I'm here, aren't I? I'm reading from the USA Today report about this, just for full context. The exchange began when a reporter asked about his mindset entering this season, a year after he said he was considering retirement. Rendon shared how his thoughts on his baseball career have shifted since the Washington Nationals drafted him in 2011. Since then, he's gotten married and has 4 kids, he said, and his priorities have changed. My perspective on baseball has been more skewed, he said. And I want to start off by saying this. because we're just coming off of a week, Nick, where our top story, and it's still one of our stories this week, is the Kansas City shooting. That there are some things in life, some situations where we recognize that the game is a game, especially a kid's game like Major League Baseball.
We've said that for years. That's the big joke we make, that it's a children's game that they get paid a lot of money to play.
Right. So there are things more important than sports, especially a sport like baseball. We've had situations where we've talked about this. And if something ever came up with Anthony Rendon's family, we would say, you know what? Let him take care of that, because baseball, there are times in which baseball isn't a priority. But I think the thing about Rendon, think that the reason you were laughing is more of a matter of, like we just talked about in the Trout segment, he hasn't played up to what his contract is. He had that magical postseason with the Nationals in 2019 where they won the World Series. And then he gets this offer. He takes it for the Angels to, kind of boost the team when they still had Ohtani and they had Trout. And, fresh off that, contract that we just talked about, still in the earliest stages of that there could be great things that come, and it just hasn't. And he hasn't played up to his level. And obviously there was that controversy a year or two ago, Nick, with no habla inglés, where he tries to avoid the media.
Him and I beat the shit. You and I beat the shit out of him for making that statement. And well deserved, by the way, because obviously he's not thinking before he talks.
So I think this quote sometimes gets taken a little out of context, considering the situation? Maybe a little bit, but at the same time, I don't know if Anthony Rendon, with the reputation he's had with the Angels, is one to really make this kind of comment.
Well, let's point out a few things for context. One, he's a Scott Boras client, number one. So that just fits into the profile. 2, 7 years, $245 million. That's the Angels' fault, by far. They didn't do their due diligences to really understand if the guy, one, wanted to be there to actually play, or was he just taking money, which is what it sounds like now, that he basically took a large contract after winning the World Series with the Nationals. Now, his contract is different. Remember how I said Trout was a consistency across the board? Unfortunately,
this is a backloaded.
No, his numbers go up.
Yeah, this is a backloaded contract.
So the Angels are probably saying, "Oh, fuck, what did I do now?" So,
which fervor points my case with when I talked about in the Trout segment of maybe it's best for both parties, or they just let's sit down, let's figure out a way to lessen our burden of money, and you, talking about Trout, not Rendon, go on to win a championship somewhere else.
Well, okay, so there's another issue with the contract. He's with full Rendon? No trade. He's full no trade.
Rendon is full no trade too.
So the Angels are just don't know how to conduct business.
Nick, I was talking about Trout in that situation, not Rendon. Rendon,
no, but I'm just telling you though.
Rendon there.
What?
I say Rendon.
Yeah.
They're done. They have to stay.
They're stuck. They can't trade him. Who's going to want him anyway? Now that he keeps saying that baseball's.
Nick, I think as much as Mike Trout's contract, as much we talk about Mike Trout's contract, at least Mike Trout is still one of the faces of baseball and has the ability and still can play hard
and wants to play.
Right, Rendon. I think that contract is just as bad, if not worse, because of his lack of production.
Now, he's out in 2027 at least, so it's not. They're only going to have to deal with it for another 4 seasons. This one plus 3.
Yeah.
But it's the most expensive years of the contract. $38 million a year for the next 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only way they would get out of it is, I don't know. Does he get his money in retirement? I don't know how that works. But he's only, when I say only, because baseball years are younger, he's 33 years old. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So he's making $38 million a year. And the Angels have to be saying, holy shit, what the hell do I do with this? And now he's saying, quote, never been a top priority for me. Why are you in baseball then? Why are you playing a professional sport? You're taking away an opportunity from someone else who could be playing this game. And you're being paid well. Well, very well.
I'm wondering, Nick, if somebody, let's say Anthony Rendon gets hurt at some point during the season. I'm wondering now. I don't think the Angels farm system is exactly great, but let's play theoretics here. Let's say Rendon gets hurt at some point this season, and the Angels have another third baseman. All of a sudden, that third baseman, young third baseman, prospect level, performs so admirably. What do you do if you're the Angels at that point?
You can't, because you're on $38 million a year. You're not just going to sit dead money. That's any team.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think they're going to let $38 million just go down the drain?
That's not. But my point is the kind of scenario that they're stuck in now.
Agreed, and I'm not disagreeing with you. That's totally right. But $38 million a year for 4 seasons plus, they're going to beat the crap out of him to get every value they possibly can get.
I know, but they're screwed. Let's put it this way: they're screwed.
Well, with a full no trade clause or the idiot clause, it doesn't help.
Mm-hmm. Let's move over to the other side of Los Angeles. Let's talk about Yamamoto. Obviously hasn't thrown a pitch in here yet, but we spent all the time, Nick, with Yamamoto. We talked about it's Dodgers or it's Yankees or it's Mets. Well, there was another team that was involved in those conversations, and that was one Philadelphia. And reportedly, according to several reports, I'm still trying to apparently it was the Phillies owner, John Middleton, who was the Philadelphia acquirer who had the story. And apparently John Middleton told the outlet that they, quote, pushed hard for Yamamoto. And apparently, according to these reports, the Phillies offered more than the 12-year $325 million that the Dodgers offered. Now, we don't have the money value as to what the contract exactly was that the Phillies supposedly had offered, but there was some form. But basically, the Phillies were essentially a mystery team of sorts. And this came around the time that apparently Yamamoto, but remember those reports where he refused to go to New York City? The day before, or something like that, apparently he refused to go to Philadelphia as well. So the Phillies, in a desperation attempt to get stars and land any of these big name free agents from this free agency, apparently made a really big offer to Yamamoto, and Yamamoto still turned them down. Which, Nick, if this story is true, then that furthers what I said at the end of last year. Remember, we were talking about the Yankee and Met offers, but that basically, even though all these reports say, well, it was either the Dodgers or the Yankees, if a story like this is true, Nick, then that tells me once Shohei did and the Dodgers did what they did, with all that deferred money, it was over. Because the plan all along, it seemed, for the Dodgers was to do that.
First of all, and you know my opinion on these stories when they come out after the fact, this is ridiculous. Why even bring it up after the fact? Oh, well, you know what? Even though he signed with the Dodgers,
we tried.
We were the biggest offer. I mean, this is what I started to tell you with Aaron Judge and the Yankees and the Giants and the Padres. Well, supposedly the Giants made a bigger offer, and the Padres were going to supposedly offered $400 million. And $50 million in loan payments later. I want to know how they were going to pay that contract if that was the case. Mm-hmm. This is malarkey. That's the nicest word I could say here. That what is John Middleton, the owner, get out of releasing this news or this story after the fact? He's a Dodger. That's it. We knew as soon as Shohei went to the Dodgers that basically it was a done deal that Yamamoto was going to the Dodgers. That was it. Maybe the Yankees were involved. Maybe the Mets were involved because the Mets actually have some Japanese pitchers.
Correct. But if I remember during the early part of the offseason, it came out that Yamamoto wanted to go wherever Shohei Ohtani went.
Well, that's my point.
And so it ended up being true. Yeah.
Because my question is, if it was true what they were saying, that if Shohei went to the Mets, Yamamoto probably would have been a Met, probably. So I'm sure the Mets are kicking themselves a million times, but the Mets and Steve Cohen are not even spending any money, which is kind of laughable and hysterical to me also. But this is a lot of air breather, as I like to call it. Like no one cares. Okay, you were reportedly the biggest offer. No one cares. Is he in a Philly uniform? No. So that's it. It's over. There's not much to read into. This is making John Middleton feel better to the media. Basically say, oh, well, look at us. We were the biggest offer right here.
It's like,
but you lost.
Yeah, you lost.
You know how they say, like, today, like, whenever we used to play sports, like competitive sports when we were kids, there was no such thing as a participation trophy. Like, you won first, second, or third, and that was it. Now, and I hate to say this, but in today's, like, organized kids sports, everyone gets a freaking trophy, including last place. Okay? This is Philadelphia looking for the participation trophy, finishing in last place.
This is John Middleton.
Emotional damage.
Yeah. Good. All right. You know what, John Middleton? I'll give you a participation trophy for being involved in the negotiations, but you finished in last.
I mean, you know what you can do with all that money now? Maybe you can try to appease Bryce Harper, as now he might be looking for a new contract.
Isn't he under a long-term deal?
He'll be almost 39 by the time his contract expires, but he wants to play into his 40s. And he wants to be the highest paid player in baseball or something like that.
Okay, so he's 31. He's got 8 years left. He's not going for a new contract anytime soon.
So you think, the rumors are out there.
Well, the rumors, if you really want the funny rumor or the more entertaining rumor, was that when Mike Trout was possibly going to get traded to Philadelphia to play with Bryce Harper. That was the most entertaining rumor to me.
And honestly, Nick, we talked about this, I guess, as a running gag with the Mike Trout story, but why not have that talk? Could you imagine Trout and Harper on the same team?
I think Trout would have a field day hitting in Citizens Bank Park. Bryce Harper has. It took him a year or two, but he finally got there.
And I think Bryce Harper, even in the field, Nick, he's revitalized himself as a first baseman.
I mean, everyone thought he was going to be a bust. Yeah, like you said, I think eventually he's going to get a Gold Glove at first base the way he's been playing. But I'll hold that judgment until it actually happens. But yeah, this is the kid finishing in last place, getting a participation trophy. That's
it. We did it.
We did it. Yay. Well, where do we go from here? Hello?
Hello?
You froze for a second. There we go.
All right. Let's move over now to Shohei Ohtani. So speaking of all that, Shohei Ohtani's apparently, they say he's making progress on his injury, but he's not going to be healthy enough to be in the first spring training game for the Dodgers. So
now we're going to piss off fans even more. Good job, everybody. We're starting this already. We're load managing, and we haven't even played with the Dodgers yet.
So, I mean, on one hand, it's spring training. On the other hand, Nick, if I'm not mistaken, Dodgers usually do pretty well with spring training attendance, and people have the expectations that, some of those names will play.
You don't think people want to see Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto in spring training? Are you kidding? I mean... Right. And now you're sitting him out, and he's already unavailable for the opener. Now, maybe this is just to give him a little more time. Now, I don't think he's pitching this year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, so, he's going to be exclusively a hitter this year,
which is a problem because you're going to clog the DH spot all year, basically. Again, I don't know exactly 100% what to read into this because it's spring training. and you're not getting 100% out of guys yet.
Right.
So it's really a non-story, except for fans who are paying to see him.
Exactly. All right. Here's an interesting story, Nick, that kind of broke last week after we had recorded, so we couldn't get into last week's episode. Rob Manfred's gonna be done in 5 years.
Yeah, the way this story was told was kind of funny, and one of our new guys, Corey Sobel, is a producer for Hitting for the Cycle now. Actually, we put a video out, and his sarcastic reaction to it was great. But he's like, "Oh well, Rob Manfred is retiring 5 years from now." And who does this affect? Does it affect the owners? Does it affect the players? It's a strange situation. And then he finished it.
But I believe that means then the next MLBPA negotiation, he's still going to be the commissioner. Right?
Yes. But Corey basically finishes that video basically say, well, this is a weird situation, but Rob Manfred is a weird guy.
Is he wrong?
No, but I'm saying that was the point. Like, he makes everything strange because he's a strange guy. It's weird that he would get a contract extension and then, because I think he got that extension this offseason, didn't he?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. And now he's announcing he's going to retire at the end of it.
In other words, the extension that he got, he says is going to be the final one. But Nick, remember, this is the man who once called the World Series trophy, the Commissioner's Trophy, a piece of metal.
10. But yeah.
Metal.
Well, I thought he called it a piece of 10, but
no,
it might be metal. Okay. But it's still bad either way. But it's I'm happy about this news regardless.
I don't think anyone's sad about it.
No, because Rob Manfred has been a terrible commissioner of Major League Baseball ever since he took over from Bud Selig.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the debate always is players commissioner versus owners commissioner. Bud Selig was a player's guy by every way, shape, or form. Rob Manfred is an owner's commissioner by every way, shape, or form. It's the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a lot of... Now, people are going to say, but Nick, Tom, like, Rob had to deal with COVID, and he had to deal with all this... Like, that was probably the worst... That was probably the worst time of his commissionership.
Oh my God. I mean, between right before COVID, not doing anything with the Astros with their cheating scandal, and then during COVID, I mean, you saw how bad it dragged out with the MLB and the MLBPA, which those bad feelings, Nick, lingered in 2 years later. Remember, the 2022 season, it seemed unlikely we were even going to have a 162 game season at that point.
Right, and then they ended up having 60 or whatever it was.
Well, that was in 2020. 2022, we almost lost a week or two of baseball, but they managed to add it back.
Right, but and then you had the issues with the strike and all that stuff.
That's what it was, yeah.
And did not handle that well. Said a lot of terrible things. And then Tony Clark and him butt heads beefed. To the point where we were wondering if baseball was going to happen. And
remember what I said, Nick? I had said that if even one game got canceled, I said you and Federa at the time, you guys could do all the baseball stuff because I said I was not going to watch.
Well, we did have games canceled technically, but
right, but they added them back. I said if it wasn't 162 games, I said I wasn't going to watch a game that year.
And it was stupid because I think the Yankees-Astros series had to be made up at the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Yankees something. It might have been Yankees Rangers.
Well, I think it was the first 2 weeks they pushed back, so they lost all those games.
Yeah, because it had to be like Yankees Rangers or Astros. I think the Rangers one was because I think the Rangers series, Nick, that was when Judge broke the AL home run record.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, but Rob has been a terrible commissioner. He doesn't know how to handle himself. I mean, there's quite a few incidents I can go back to. Do you remember the whole thing that happened with the Lebitard show on ESPN Radio where now, let me preface that with the Lebitard show is not your typical sports. If you're looking for analytics and sports nerd talk, don't go there.
Find it there. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You and I have grown up on that show forever. And we like that because it's not serious sports.
Mm-hmm.
But Rob, I'm surprised Rob even went on that show because Rob is not really your beat around the bush jokester type guy.
No.
Like, that's not his. And if I remember correctly, that had to do with the new Marlins stadium that they were trying to get taxpayer money. Yeah. And the team was in a shit show role because Derek Jeter became the new owner, part of the ownership group, and Bruce Sherman was terrible and still terrible. And he just got defensive from the onset. And that's who Rob is. They should, instead of Mr. Commissioner, they should call him Mr. Defensive. Because that's what he is. He doesn't accept criticism very well at all.
He's soft. He's very soft.
And between the strikes and between the COVID and all the rules that were in place, now, obviously to protect the players, you had the bubble for the World Series, I think in Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
It just was not handled well. And then him threatening to cancel the season probably made it worse.
Big time.
So, goodbye, Rob. No one wants you anymore.
My last message, well, I think it's not even last because it's 5 more years.
He'll do something stupid again in 5 years.
Well, here's my message.
You need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
All right, couple other stories, smaller stories here for MLB to wrap that up. According to Jeff Passan in his latest newsletter for ESPN Plus, MLB expansion is inevitable, and Salt Lake City and Nashville would be the 2 biggest candidates for that list. Now, I think those two cities, Nick, have minor league teams, so I assume the minor league teams would have to move somewhere else at that point.
Probably. Now, I'm surprised Nashville hasn't been talked about for a long time because the country scene with sports. Yeah,
I was gonna say it's had its fair share. I mean, I think when the rumors of Tampa Bay relocating from Tampa Bay first started up, that the Rays
you're right.
Considered Nashville as an option.
Right, but I think if you're going to put a team in Nashville, you got to start a new one. I wouldn't drag a team from somewhere else to Nashville. Now, Nashville could be a fun place to be if they do it right.
Now, it's been a long time, I think, actually, since the Rays and the Diamondbacks of 1998 that we have had an MLB team. You know, we've gone a while without an MLB team being created. And, I mean, it would take a long time to get used to from my stance because the first MLB I have ever known had the 30 teams because I got into baseball just, you know, as the Diamondbacks and Rays had just started forming.
Trust me, I remember that too because I remember my recollection of baseball goes back to 98, watching the World Series, and I was 5. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's those early days. But, you know, you think about the other sports, Nick. Hockey just added 2 teams in recent years. I can't believe we're about to have it's 7 years already since. I don't like that look.
Well, when we get to the Bears story, there's some news that came out of that podcast you and I were talking about.
Oh, okay. So where was it? Oh, that the NHL added 2 teams. They added Seattle and Vegas. I can't believe it's already 7 years and 1 Stanley Cup already for Vegas.
I know NHL. I got the one thing I'll give the NHL credit for, and again, you know, it's not my sport by any means, but they've handled expansion very well considering the circumstances. And they did Vegas, they did Seattle, and so far, for the most part, successful.
Right. And they managed to, you know, after the realignment of the conferences in 2014, now we have 4 8-team divisions, 2 for divisions for each conference. Everything lines up perfectly. The NBA has had a talk for a long time about going back to Seattle. And Nick, I still think within the next decade, we're going to get Seattle and maybe Vegas or maybe a team or 2 on the East Coast as well to join the NBA.
For the NBA, yeah. I mean, they were in Seattle previously with the Supersonics.
And there's been that big push to move them. I mean, to get the NBA to go back to Seattle ever since the Supersonics became the Thunder.
Yeah, and Seattle, believe it or not, was a fun city to have the NBA in. That's people don't remember this because it's a while ago, but Kevin Durant started when they were still the Supersonics.
Right.
People don't
I
remember that.
I
And like you and I are going to remember that. But for today's fans who say, "Oh, I remember him on OKC," go back quite a few years earlier. He came into the league. It was drafted by who? The Supersonics.
Right. Well, same team, same history.
But I'm just saying generally. Yeah.
But that's the other thing would be like, Seattle would be the one, obviously. The thing is, we talk about you have to even in the NBA's case, the West with the East. And I think, Nick, considering what the Raiders have done, what the Golden Knights have done, and now the MLB trying to get the A's in there, which that's all up in the air now if the A's are even going to go to Vegas anymore at this point. But but there's still like AAA baseball over there anyway. The NBA would have to go over there. I mean, the NBA already has history with the Thomas and Mack Center being an all-star game host for a number of years.
I'm surprised they don't have a team in Vegas already. I'm kind of shocked.
I know. But the only thing is, if Seattle and Vegas both get added, then you need two teams on the East Coast as well.
Well, right. See, people and you and I had discussed this over the past couple of days. In the leagues, all the leagues, you would have to even out on both sides. You can't just say, I want one team. Major League Baseball effed that up for years with the Astros until they moved them over to the American League.
And that's my one concern about this. It's like, okay, you can do Salt Lake City in the AL West, Nashville in the NL East, or you could do it the other way around, Salt Lake City in the NL West, Nashville in the AL East, whatever. The thing is, but then you eliminate that whole. You would have to do realignment again, whether that be somehow having one team, having one division with with an additional team, and then going back to the older days, Nick, when we were kids, of one team sitting out. Or doing something like the NHL has done and make an AL, kind of going back then to older days where you have an AL East and AL West and eliminating essentially the Central.
Now, I thought it was pathetic. Like when you had a team sitting out Major League Baseball every day, that means you wouldn't be able to have all 30 teams or 32 teams on display.
Now that I'm sitting here and thinking about it, Nick, I'm wondering if this move goes through. Is that going to be MLB's thing where they eliminate the Central Division? We go back to like the 60s, 70s days where it's an AL East, an AL West, an NL East, an NL West, and that's it.
What if I said to you a million times about the NBA that I'm tired of all the divisional stuff? Just line them up in a conference or all together, actually. Because I don't know, how many teams are we? 30 in the NBA?
For the NBA, 30.
30. And just line them up and take 15 of the 30 teams and put them in the playoffs and call it a day. I don't care if it's uneven. I don't care if it's more West teams because, excuse me, the West has way better teams than the East. Let's just be real.
You just wanted 1 through 16 for the
I
NBA.
want the best teams in the playoffs. And I don't care if it's 80% West and 20% East. I'm tired of the fact that we have to put teams in by a 1 through 8 system. When we already know that the 7 and the 8, the 6, 7, 8 are probably not going to make it to the end.
Oh, so, especially in these days when you have the play-in tournaments that we don't even know if we don't even know if the traditional 7 seed would even get into the playoffs at that point.
Most of the time they wouldn't because of the way the records are set. Because you have 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, my point is, and the NFL, by the way, going back to my point where NFL had Houston in 2002, so MLB. Maybe it is kind of due, but it's just the logistics of everything.
You're going to have a traveling hell if you only put in one team. You're going to have to put in 2. That's why you're hearing Major League Baseball say, hey, we want Salt Lake City and Nashville.
Right, which I'm wondering how Rob Manfred and the owners, because let's face it, as much we crap on Manfred, his bosses are the owners, I'm wondering how they're going to basically, what they're going to do for scheduling, what they're going to do for the standings, again, with the divisions and leagues. I'm wondering how they're going to by that if we get these 2 cities in.
Like I said, it's going to be a traveling hell for the first year or 2 because that's what happens when you put an expansion team in because you have to figure out all the logistics. Also, for schedulers, when they put the season together, it becomes a whole different issue when you're adding Nashville and Salt Lake City.
Right. One other story in baseball, Mark Lerner is saying that the Nationals are no longer for sale.
I hate to say this, but this is a non-story to me.
Yeah.
Like it's a story, but it's a non story because
the Nationals are just going to have a longer rebuild. That's all at this point.
I mean, they won their title technically. Now, I can't even remember who was on that team. It was right after Bryce Harper left, right?
Right. It was Rendon and Scherzer, Soto. Soto was a rookie, I think, at that point.
Jesus. Wow. And now he's going to be one of the highest paid players in baseball, depending on the offseason coming up.
Right.
But this is not really a news. It's news, but it's not news. And that it is what it is.
All right. A few more stories to go into outside of baseball to kind of wrap up our show. 2 adults have officially been charged in the Kansas City parade. Now, it came out afterwards, Nick, after we had finished recording our show. 3 people had been apprehended, 2 of which were minors, and now there are 2 adults here who are charged. And the circumstances, Nick, I mean, kind of makes me even angrier at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were kind of combing through the ESPN story, which I have to say they did a good job covering all the aspects of it, but not to downgrade the story by any means, but it was a petty argument that led to a shoot-off.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me?
So I say lock these people up and throw away a key and never let them see the day of light ever again. But that's just me.
They were acting like kids. Oh, I don't like the way you're looking at me. All right, I'm shooting you. What?
And then the fact that one of them actually hesitated because there were kids around and still did it anyway.
Oh. What do they say about criminals? They say they're smart people, but they don't have the exact pressure skills. Like, they don't think with their heads. So they're both charged with second-degree murder, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and an unlawful use of a weapon. Now, the reason I say that, the unlawful use of a weapon, Missouri is a carry state.
Well, you still can't shoot somebody, Nick.
No. But I'm saying, like, they got charged for unlawful use, but it's a carry state. So people are going to do what they want.
Not exactly. There is a reason that you have them. Like, self-defense can be one, but frick, man. I mean, come on. Like, over stupid... Because he was looking at him funny. Like, really?
Yeah. No. You're right. And it's like, you and I work in schools. Okay, just for example's sake. And like, I work in a childcare, and I see 2 kids looking at each other funny. They're not going to pull out a gun. Are you kidding? They might hit each other or trip each other, but you're never going to see them pull out a damn gun.
Like I said, let these 2 adults just throw the key away, never let them see the light of day ever again.
But the whole quote of he hesitated shooting because he knew they were kids. What? Then why'd you do it? This whole thing could have been avoided. Ugh.
I can't, people. I can't. All right. Justin Fields. So this is your favorite kind of petty drama, Nick, where a player unfollows the team that they're on social media. And in Justin Fields' case, starts following Falcons players, including Bijan Robinson, the team account. So at this point, Nick, for the full context for those who may have tuned out of the NFL already, with the Chicago Bears, because of the Carolina Panthers' horrible season, the Bears have the first overall pick this year. And rumors were circulating. They were debating, do they keep Fields? Do they take one of the young quarterbacks? And it seems likely if what Fields is doing is indicating anything, that the Bears will trade Justin Fields probably to the Falcons and end up taking Caleb Williams as the number 1 overall pick.
Right. So you're right. This is probably the biggest form of petty in all of professional sports. Oh, well, I don't like you anymore, so I'm just not going to follow you on social media anymore. All right, fine. You win. You win the petty contest. And then I see
what's the development from the podcast today?
So, well, people don't know about that yet. So Justin Fields went on a podcast called the St. Brown Brothers Podcast, which is as part of the 33rd team, I think is what it's called. That's where Ari Miroff is.
Yeah.
So this is Justin Fields on Bears quarterback decision. quote, I just want it to be over. Let me know if I'm being traded. Let me know if I'm staying. Okay.
So he's getting fed up with the team, basically.
To me, that's get me the hell out of here. Okay. And the unfollowing, even though it's petty, for the first time in all these petty dramas, I actually think he's being sincere.
I think so too. Now, I don't know if the team can legally do anything until the new NFL year starts next month.
You can't.
Yeah, so they gotta wait. So unfortunately for him, he's going to have to wait.
Oh, and there's more quotes dropping.
Mhm.
Justin Fields, just because you don't follow a girl on IG don't mean you're not messing with them.
I don't know what's funnier. The comparison, the usage of the double negatives, or
And now I'm seeing more quotes. Basically, he's saying, like, and I think this is BS, but he's saying, oh, I needed a break from the NFL and the Bears on my timeline.
I mean, I get needing a break from people, but considering that you also just followed a whole bunch of Falcons players, I think maybe the Falcons team account.
You know what? If he
hold
had
on.
just unfollowed the Bears and didn't start following the Falcons players, might have got away with it.
Yeah, I might have, but instead you get this. Mr.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop you fucking lying.
I mean, this is pettiness to the 1 millionth degree, but
Well, now here's a question, because now I think it's clear, Nick. There's a few teams that need quarterbacks, and the Falcons are one of those. We've talked about that they needed changes to their offense, and well, they made one change, getting rid of Arthur Smith. Now a quarterback that's not, because I assume what would happen is Desmond Ridder would become the backup, Marcus Mariota would, it just goes away, and then Fields would take over. Is this who is likely to get Fields, or do you think Fields wants to go to Atlanta if he's not going to be in Chicago?
well, here's the weird thing about this whole situation. He still has to be traded
Right.
if he wants to be out. It's not like he's a free agent and he can do whatever he wants because he knows someone is going to go
Right. But
sign
my
him.
question is, considering the circumstances of both this Fields Bears drama and the fact that, well, the Falcons are kind of in need of a quarterback, is this Fields going with where he thinks he's going to be traded or where he wants to be traded to, or is Fields following them, acting upon maybe rumor, whether it be rumor from his team or circulated by the media or something?
I mean, I'm trying to look up his contract because that'll give me some more info also.
Well, I think he's still on his rookie deal because he was a 2021 draft pick.
Okay, so he's fully guaranteed, full contract, 5th-year option available, 22 million, no offset language, and training camp roster bonuses are guaranteed. I mean, so there's. I was wondering like if there's no trades, but there's really no. There is no trades in the NFL.
I said it's a rookie deal.
So,
But now you talk about the 5th-year option. He just completed 3 seasons. So whoever's in charge of the contract, and in this case, as of right now, Nick, Chicago, has until May to make a decision on the 5th-year option.
well, here's the other pettiness of this discussion. Also, he unfollowed the NFL. Also, so I don't know what to make of this.
Again,
To be
I would
honest,
I would understand his comments if he didn't follow the Falcons players.
oh my god! And now he's also saying that he thinks the refs cheated when the Bears played the Steelers on Monday Night Football his rookie season. I mean,
Well,
Justin Fields is. This is not helping him right now by any means. He needs to stop. Like he's putting himself. Wait, where's the sound effect? Like Justin Fields, stop talking. You're hurting yourself. Just stop. You know how like certain players like this is going to be terrible, but he reminds me of T.O.
I don't know if I get to that point yet, Nick.
No, because remember when T.O. was not happy, he went to what did he do? He went to the media.
Oh, listen. Again, I understand Fields' frustrations, but Like I said, he can't do anything yet. The Bears can't do anything yet. You have to wait till the league year starts.
But these petty quotes, just because you don't follow the girl on IG, don't mean you're not messing with her. Like, what are you proving?
I don't know.
Like, is he looking to make quotes so that, like, he can get attention for himself?
I don't know. At this point, Nick, I'm not willing to. I'm just going to go under the assumption he's going to get traded to Atlanta, but 1 month from now, and they're just going to take Caleb Williams.
He
now
can't come back. It's over. I'm
Right.
telling you right now, it's 100% over.
Yeah.
After
Now
that.
the question's going to be, because I don't remember the 5 teams. Will Caleb Williams want to play for Chicago?
I mean, he would look like an asshole if he refused to be the number 1 overall pick. Just saying.
True. College Football Playoff Board has unanimously approved the 12-team format that would start this season. It was supposed to be 6 plus 6, 6 conference champions, 6 wild cards, but because of the dissolution of the Pac-12, it's now going to be 5 plus 7. 5 conference champions from the Power 5, and then 7 at-large teams. So
Right, so 5 are auto bid, the first 5. Yeah.
Right. But I believe it's going to be like Major League Baseball, where the last conference champion in this case, like it would be division champ in MLB, the last conference champ still has to play a first-round game with the 7 at large.
I mean, this is just college football wanting more teams in the playoff.
Right.
It's a money thing. You saw the massive deal they just signed with ESPN. Like, they need more content for the amount of money that they're spending. That's what I think this is.
So, yeah, it's money in that, money for the Power 5 conferences. And Nick, the only thing is, I feel really bad for traditional college. Now, let me be clear on this, because the New Year's 6, the New Year's 6 teams that are going to be selected, because it's going to be the top 12, would probably end up being New Year's 6 bowl teams anyway. But the off chance that, in the format that we're just coming off of, one of the teams outside of the top 12 would get the chance to play. I feel bad for them, because now all the New Year's 6 games, Nick, the New Year's 6 bowl games, they're all going to be playoff games. 2 of them are going to be semifinals, as it's always been since the start of the tournament. And now the other 4 are going to be quarterfinal games at those stadiums.
Right. I mean, there's
So
really
my question is,
Yeah.
Sorry, Nick. My question then is, let's take the Rose Bowl, for instance. So a Rose Bowl was a semifinal game. So the next 2 years, it's going to be quarterfinal matchups. Does the Rose Bowl lose any sort of significance now, because now it's going to be a playoff game, essentially?
I mean, this goes back to the argument of, like, when the NBA added the extra playoff games, or the NFL added another wild card, or MLB added another round of wild card. Like, you're cheapening the playoff process, because everyone's like, oh, wow, more teams, longer playoff, more money, more whatever. You're cheapening the product. That's what you're doing, because you're making it easier for more teams to get in. It's no longer, I worked really hard all season and I got in, or I just missed because there was only a certain amount of spots. So this is cheapening the process.
And that's the question. It's like, at this point, Nick, it's like, what's going to be, with this kind of expansion, what's going to be the more prestigious non-playoff bowl games? It's like the Holiday Bowl, maybe the Alamo Bowl, maybe for the sake of memery after this last playoff, the Pop-Tarts Bowl with the whole Pop-Tarts,
eating the Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. All these bowl games, it's a gimmick so that college football could get the sponsors attached to all the games. They don't care if whoever wins the national championship. They don't care who wins these bowl games. It's all about the money and the business aspect. And if they're not making money, they'll replace this format next year if it doesn't work.
and I was actually just scrolling on Reddit, Nick, for a second. Somebody has a different argument. We just talked about like the Holiday Bowl, Alamo Bowl, which wouldn't be part of it. Do those bowl games lose prestige because they're not going to be part of the New Year's?
Yes, because now those games are just extra games. And here's the other argument you're going to run into. All right, so people were upset because they had 4 teams. Now you're going to have 12. What's next? You're going to have the next 5 to 7 teams who are going to be annoyed because they missed the playoffs. Are you just going to keep extending and extending? Like what they do in March Madness. How many teams are we now?
68.
Think about it. You're going to have teams who are mad because teams 70 through 75.
And I'm wondering, Nick, like, I know Nick Saban's gone, but let's play, again, playing theoretical. Imagine Alabama loses 2 games, and they get in as a 10, and they end up winning the whole thing, even beating out the three undefeated teams. Like, imagine that kind of argument. One of those undefeated schools saying, well, we should have won because a 2-team Alabama under the whole format shouldn't have even been in.
Right. I mean, like I said, watch 10 years from now that 12 is going to go to like what?
Is going to change again?
Yeah, it's going to go from like 12 to 30, and you're going to see like 30 teams, and then it's not even going to be a playoff anymore. Like you're going to have to create a March Madness bracket for the college football playoff.
I don't know how you do that with a sport like college football, though.
You can't. That's the problem, and that's the issue. It's a little bit different in college basketball because you have rankings and seeds, and which you do in college football.
And you don't have the kind of grit. I don't know if grit's the right word, but the kind of physical nature that you do with football.
No, you don't. But it's a lot different. The rankings matter a little bit more in the NBA college basketball than they do in the college football circuit. The number is just a number next to a team in college football. So it's all a matter of how much money do they want to make. And then you have the NIL issues, which are becoming a problem again, because you have some of these athletes who are like, well, I could make $10 million. I don't know if you saw the interview that Johnny Manziel did with Shannon Sharp.
I heard about it, yeah.
And basically it came out from Johnny Manziel's mouth that he could have made $10 million in NIL money, which I don't know if that's true. Because again, much different era when it came to money, at which you weren't allowed. But the NIL money is also going to force these contracts to be bigger. So
yeah,
that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, last thing, because we got to end, but I know how much you want to talk about this. Your reaction to NBA All-Star Weekend. I'll be very honest. I didn't watch a thing because I had UFC coverage all weekend. So
good thing.
I mean, I saw a couple of the dunks. They were fine. I did like Mac McClung's leap over Shaq. I like
that was good, but I felt like he was better last year than he was this year. Now, part of that I think has to do with the mystique of last year, but
I was like, because he was a G League participant last year.
Well, and no one knew who he was,
right? And now people know who he is. You're right.
Yeah.
I liked hearing about Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu. I liked how Sabrina did it from the NBA 3-point line, and actually,
go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say that she only lost by like 3.
Most entertaining thing of the entire weekend, and that's saying a lot. That held up to form. Her agreeing to shoot from the NBA distance probably earned her more points in a lot of people's book.
It's weird, Nick. As much as I'm getting older, maybe I don't know if it's about, like you said, slam dunk contest and maybe losing mystique a little bit, but as I'm getting older, I'm liking the 3-point contests more.
Yes, I agree with you 1,000% that you're getting more of the stars competing in the 3-point contest, because you had KAT, Karl Anthony Towns in it. You had Dame in it, who won again for the 2nd straight year. You had Halliburton for the Pacers. You had plenty of guys competing, which is weird because they can't get as hurt as much in that competition. Excuse me. Trae Young competed and made it all the way to the end. But the Steph Curry, Sabrina Ionescu thing was the most entertaining thing of the weekend. And that's a problem for the NBA. The dunk contest grading on a sliding scale from 0 being absolutely horrible to 10 being great, I would say it's like a 2, maybe. And I think that's being nice because I really would give it a 0. If it wasn't for McClung, like really doing something. The most embarrassing dunk of the entire dunk competition, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown over Jai Sent sitting on a chair. Now, I'll be generous and say Jai Sent is like 5'2", 5'3", maybe. But he was sitting on a chair. Okay? And they changed the angle of the camera to the up above to make it look better than it did. And they gave him a higher score than they gave Obi Toppin for a between the legs dunk. I don't know what they were smoking on that judges panel.
Number one, I guess it's the matter of because a prop was used, so the creativity factor, I guess.
He was sitting on a chair.
I think I know the sound you're looking for.
Stay off the weed. Duh.
That scored more than Toppin's dunk. Toppin's dunk was more difficult. Now, I don't know who the judges were for the dunk competition this year, but I wish Kenny Smith would shut the hell up during the dunk competition. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's over.
Sounded like Bill Plaschke on Around the Horn whenever a playoff series is like 3-0. It's over.
So
or 2-0.
I'm glad McClung won because his were probably the best dunks. But we have to get to somebody else because the All-Star game.
Yeah. I mean, Nick, what kind of score was that?
I mean, 211 to 186, 397 total points scored in the All-Star game.
And here's Adam Silver, who's about to hand out the MVP.
Well, wait. Before we go there, I got to set this one up a little because the game was shit in every way. Yeah. Basically, they don't play defense. It's basically 10 James Hardens out on the court.
Well,
basically,
that's been a problem with the All-Star game for years at this point.
With the exception
of the exception of maybe when they had the, what do they call it, with the limit that you reach a certain amount of points to win.
That was great when they put that in because it actually gave them a little competition to play towards. But then you see threes being hoisted at half court by Damian Lillard, which made no sense whatsoever, and which he made them, which was cool, but there's no defense being played.
The Elam ending, by the way, was the name I was looking for.
Who?
The Elam ending with the certain points, or it's like,
yes,
certain points win.
But they do that in college basketball, I think, don't they? Sometimes they've 3-on-3. The 3-on-3 tournament, which made the games go quicker, by the way, because you knew what limit you were playing to. But it was bad. The game was, I think they said there was like 100 plus, over 100 plus, or 200 plus points at halftime, which is insane. But you know what? And now I'll go to this because
Adam Silver's about to award the MVP, and we're about to talk about post-game honors and all he can say.
So Adam Silver, what are your thoughts on the 2024 NBA All-Star Game? You tell us.
And to the Eastern Conference All-Stars, you scored the most points. Well, congratulations.
What? He was left speechless.
What? I mean, holy cow. Like, really, Adam Silver? Really? That's your response? You're in charge of the All-Star festivities. You're the commissioner of the sport. And that's your reaction to the result of the game? This one's on you. I mean, seriously. 397 points. The guys don't give a shit out there.
Nick, can I petition that we rename the NBA to the NDB? No defense basketball.
It's funny you bring that up because the average points scored in the season is 120. 120 points!
Defense, what's that?
I mean, this is not Michael Jordan's basketball anymore.
It's not your grandma's basketball either.
Well, yeah, because remember when they said, hey, great defense means better offense? Well, don't tell James Harden that.
Oh, you mean Mr.
Fat!
Right. I mean, I want you to hear this one more time, just because it's laughable what Adam Silver said. Just soak this one in for a second.
And to the Eastern Conference All-Stars, you scored the most points. Well, congratulations.
The way he said that, like, he didn't even try to hide it. He's just like, well, congratulations. Like he almost didn't want to be there.
I feel like that's going to be a meme now. Well, congratulations.
I mean, yeah, you're right. That's going to be a meme. Every time you don't want to be somewhere, well, you scored the most points, so congratulations. I mean, like...
Maury is a liar.
Now Maury is a liar. Well, congratulations.
Well, congratulations. You scored the most points. I mean, the NBA All-Star Weekend was a bust. The only thing that gave it any type of credibility was Steph versus Sabrina. That was it. Nothing else. Now, the one positive I'll give you besides that one is Dame winning the three-point contest and being the MVP of the All-Star game. First time since Michael Jordan to win one of the competitions and be the MVP of the game. But the game is washed up. Like, in my opinion, throw the game away. Actually, I'll go one step further. Throw all the All-Star games away and get rid of them.
Would you at least, Nick, keep, for the sake of a weekend, for the sake of fan entertainment, would you keep skills competitions?
I'm okay with the three-point contest. I think it would be cool to have, like, challenges, like 1v1, not game, but, like, I think they're onto something with Steph versus Sabrina. Maybe you do an NBA versus WNBA in some skills competitions. And maybe that's how you build some fandom up. And you could cross-promote between the two brands.
Because I do think, like, say, the NHL does a good job, Nick, with, like, how they have the speed skating, how they have goalie and shooting contests.
I like the targets also, like on the corners of the net.
And as much as, like, the NFL Pro Bowl, I mean, is a joke, I do like how, they'll have the skill challenges. They'll have the dodgeball stuff. I wish MLB
football is kind of a joke, though.
Right, but I like the skills competition.
Yes, I kind of like the center doing the hikes into the holes behind them. That was kind of unique.
As a quarterback throwing accuracy, receiving contests,
because that actually takes some skill.
I wish MLB added that. I know they have the futures game. I know they have the home run derby and the celebrity softball game, but I wish they also had in addition to the home run derby, they had a fielding contest. I wish they had something like, I don't know for pitching if you want to do, the speediest kind of throw because you don't want pitchers throwing their arms out. But I wish MLB had its own version of skills competition too during All-Star time.
Well, the one last argument I'll make, and then we'll finish this up. Everyone's complaining about the dunk contest. Now, you had Jaylen Brown, who, by the way, is the highest paid guy in the NBA.
But everyone's complaining that, but I know where you're going with this. And I remember 1997, and Secret Base did a great job on that, where the contest kind of went away. Now, one year, I think it was the second year, 1999, it was gone because of the strike. But, when it wasn't there in 98, people were complaining how much they missed it. So it's like...
Also, all the stars competed. There was no such thing as I refuse to be in the dunk contest. I refuse to be in the three-point contest. All the stars. If you were an All-Star Weekend, you competed. This was never an issue. Now,
my thing is, Nick, if you're going to get rid of the slam dunk contest, don't bitch and moan the next year when you miss it.
It hasn't been good for years. It's there to be there. That's pretty much it. And I created one more banner because I have to go after somebody for the reason why the dunk competition is not. Yes, blame LeBron, because if you remember when he came into the league, what was his calling card a lot in games? Dunks. Flashy dunks. And every time they ask him to be in the contest, what's the answer we get?
No.
No. And what did that lead to? Every time he said no, what happens? What's the trickle down?
No.
All the All-Stars said no. So you want to blame somebody for the dunk competition being terrible? Blame LeBron.
Well, I mean, he's on a headline that we couldn't even get it really into this week about he's unsure if he's going to do the retirement tour, if he's going to be like Tim Duncan, one quiet summer day during the NBA offseason, just, hey, I'm done.
First of all, even if he does that, they'll find a way, like in the next season, to be like, oh, we got to give him a retirement tour, even when he's not playing anyway. Like, but that's why
I agree.
Stinks.
I agree. I agree. The NBA is going to force it on one way or another, even if he doesn't want it.
But that's why the dunk competition stinks. LeBron started this. And I'll quickly say, you know how everyone said the game evolved because of Steph Curry and them shooting threes, and that changed the game? Well, the same thing for LeBron. When LeBron came into the league became flashier, with no doubt. And everyone said he's a shoo-in. He'll go in and be in the dunk competition. And he never did it, and it hurt the league, in my opinion. And now no stars want to do it. And Jaylen Brown wrapping bubble wrap on his, you didn't see this, but Jaylen Brown wrapped bubble wrap on his left hand and dunked the basketball. Are you kidding me? That's it. It sucks. It's done.
Okay. We've gone way over time here, so we got to end this now.
Yeah.
Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network. Make sure to subscribe here on youtube.com/ETB Network. Just hit 680 subscribers. We thank you all for your support. Remember to take Empty the Bench and the rest of the Empty the Bench Network on the road with you on our audio-only platforms, Acast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so much more. If you are listening on those platforms, we thank you, and we encourage you to go to youtube.com/ETB Network to subscribe to our YouTube home, our video base, if you will. Go to etbpodcast.com for more content, more information about the network, exclusive blogs from some of our contributors, so much more. Make sure to follow us across social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at ETB Sports, and on the network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Network. And make sure to follow Nick and myself on our own social medias at Thomas J. Albano at Morgasen Radio. And shout out again to WolfSpreads. Thank you to them for expanding their partnership with the network. 2,000 fantasy dollars, fantasy betting competition with your friends for whatever league, MLB, NBA, NFL, all that and so much more. Even an all sport, they even have an all sports option.
Yeah, I did see that. They are opening it up a little bit more, so go check them out. WolfSpreads. If you're looking for it on the store, it's a blue wolf with a white background. Excuse me. Basically, that you'll find it. It's easy to find. But that'll do it for episode 221 of Empty the Bench. He's Tom Albano. I'm Nick Morgasen. We will see you next week for episode 222 of Empty the Bench.
222. Wait, 222. Now, Nick, this is our episode for 221 airs on February 22nd, which is funny enough. It stinks that we couldn't get that aligned. But we're going to do episode 222. It airs on Leap Day.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Wow. Wait a minute. The one time every 4 years.
Yep.
Wait a minute. That means someone could celebrate their birthday for the first time in 4 years. On that note,
we'll celebrate it with you.
Yeah. On that note, that's it for this episode. We'll see you next week for 222. Good night, everybody.
Take care, all.